does your community outreach entail, and what are some key ways to build goodwill among local residents for a new compost facility? Keith?
So where we're at, we were already neighbors to everybody. So everybody kind of knew us and what we did. And there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like what you're doing. And so we had a feedlot, and we'd had to try 2,000 to 3,000 head of cattle around a lot of the time. And so we were already kind of on everybody's bad list, but we just tried to treat everybody fairly nice. And if there's a complaint, you deal with it and try to listen to everybody when they talk to you about what they don't like, and just be nice to everybody and don't tell them anything that you shouldn't. Another thing is just make sure you're on the phone a lot and talk to all the cities and counties, and make sure you have the support of them, because if there is a complaint that comes through, it's going to go to your city or county that you're in. And so as long as they know you're trying and working on it and nice to deal with, they're nice to deal with, and they'll work with you to fix any complaints that might come up.
Be nice. That is good advice. Carolyn, tell us a little bit about what is your outreach strategy?
Absolutely. The very first thing I did was knock on about 3,000 doors, and I asked my neighbors if they knew what composting was and what they felt was important. And one of the things I learned early on is that a lot of people do not know what this word means, and we have a long ways to go to educate the public overall about composting. What I do now, I do a lot of speaking on Zoom calls. Obviously, that's what everybody does these days. But I also had a farmer's market booth and had a lot of composting conversations there. A big part of the next 2 years for us is doing education in schools. I've done it fairly ad hoc. I spoke to about 600 students in the last year before lockdown, going in, talking to 5th and 6th graders about composting. But the Forward grant funds us doing an education consultant who's great. He's amazing. He used to be the poet laureate of Aurora, by the way. And we're going to put together an interesting, interactive compost education program that we want to put out in all of APS, Aurora Public Schools, and the Cherry Creek Public Schools. So all of the young people are understanding what composting is and why it's important. And it's so much more effective than teaching adults, y'all. You know, a 7-year-old gets it and they can explain it to you. It is a great way to get information all the way out to the public. I think we have a long way to go where composting is as well understood as recycling, and perhaps better understood because it's easier to do and easier to wrap your head around. But the work that everybody is doing, and especially that EcoCycle is doing and Kiss the Ground is doing, all of that is so important for the future and making sure we can capture more of this organic waste.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that if you're in the industry to step back and recognize that a lot of people, yeah, they don't know what composting is. And yeah, the Kiss the Ground Netflix series is a great reference. Tim, how about you? What does Boulder County's outreach entail?
Yeah, so in terms of supporting organic diversion as a whole, Boulder County conducts a zero waste scorecard in partnership with EcoCycle. And that scorecard sort of gives a pathway for our municipalities to tackle the challenges of organic materials. So specifically looking at residential and sort of commercial, and as well built into that on more of the qualitative side, there are efforts on education and outreach. And so we sort of uniquely let it organically kind of bubble amongst the individual municipalities. So they often conduct their own engagement and outreach campaigns, because they're often the ones dealing with the contractors for the haulers and or dealing with the contractors for A1 Organics or wherever the materials may be going in the end. And so that's a big piece of sort of supporting the continued growth of the diversion of organic material, which ultimately ends up at a compost facility somewhere in some way, shape, or form. As for facilities themselves, it's just a matter of sharing the facts. I mean, there's processes in place, right, that county and private sector entities have to go through in order to get a compost facility up and going. And so those are just kind of moving through those processes and making sure that we're checking the boxes on what is required within that in terms of getting information out on a compost facility. It greatly helps when you have advanced strategic plans. For instance, the 2010 Zero Waste Action Plan that the county has. That sort of set a mark and laid down that one of the ways for us to achieve a 90% diversion from the landfill as a county was by the building of a compost facility. Continued along that, the environmental sustainability plan, which bridges more on sort of climate action, but we all know, right, diversion of organic materials links directly into reducing greenhouse gases. So it's another strategic plan that can kind of guide that. And all of those strategic plans have their own individual outreach that occurred at those point in times as well. Obviously having on any ballot initiatives too, that's massive too, in terms of just getting information and support. So there's plenty of steps in different areas that kind of get to this overall map of diverting organics from the landfill.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
And Kathy, how about you? What does Pitkin County's outreach look like?
We have a robust outreach program. Of course, being at the landfill, I mean, it's structured that we're an enterprise fund. So we run like a business for the county. We don't take taxpayer dollars. So every year I budget in monies to do outreach, which includes, like, we do 15, 30-second commercials that show on local Comcast about they're animated, they're kind of fun. We do newspaper ads constantly, and it's not cheap. It does take some money. But given that we are an enterprise fund, gives us that ability to set aside money, and our Pitkin County commissioners are hugely supportive of it. We're in the schools a lot, not this year, but in the schools a lot. It seems like at the beginning of the year, their environmental and the middle schools and high schools have a program, and everybody wants to get composting going in the schools. And so we have to renew that every year. But again, like Carolyn said, the kids are the greatest way to get to people. We also give compost away. So through our 2015 RREO grant, we were able to buy a bagging machine. We sell it in bulk, and then we sell our compost and soil products in bags as well. And then, so like last week was America Recycles Day. We did a pledge to reduce your waste through the website, and we advertise that on our social media. So if you pledge to reduce waste, you got a free compost coupon. So the people will redeem that. Our local compost haulers, Evergreen Zero Waste and Waste Connections, will give those out in the spring, and they give them to their customers who will come up and redeem them. So popular program, and it makes people feel good. Hey, my food waste from last year is now in the bag of compost I just got. So, yeah.
So do you have, do you just use the coupons, or is there also like a compost giveaway day or?
Yeah, we don't do so much of a compost giveaway day. We'll do special events, especially around Earth Day and that sort of thing, where we will show up. Evergreen Zero Waste tends to coordinate that with us, and they'll do it, and I'll donate compost to that. We donate compost to nonprofit programs as well. Community gardens will ask us for, a couple tons of compost, and we'll have it delivered to them somehow. They'll get a truck, take it down, and then those people in the community compost can come get it, fill up a bag. So yeah, we'll do a lot of that as well.